job. Hag Sameach, everybody. You can be seated. Hag Sameach, Hag Purim Sameach. In Hebrew, we say Hag, and then we say Sameach, Sameach. And what that means is happy feast or happy holiday. And so we add the word Purim to it, Chag Purim Sameach, meaning happy Purim. Tonight is just a party. Tonight is just a fun time to get together. Of course, it's in the backdrop of some of the more serious themes around the world, and I'll speak to those a little bit later. But just a couple of things I got with some videos and pictures of IDF troops in Lebanon and IDF troops in the northern areas and even in Gaza reading the Megillah, the book of Esther, which is traditional to do this time of year. And it's very poignant because we're doing this tonight, and we're doing it in the same way everybody around the world is doing it on this day, even in battle, even in harm's way. So Adonai be praised. Tonight is a night of celebration. We're just going to have fun. So relax, put your feet up. Try not to get too tense. It's going to be okay. Everything is going to be all right. We're going to start with just a couple worship songs. You're welcome to stand if you like.
Of righteousness that I may enter through them. Open to me the gates of righteousness. I will give thanks to Adonai. Shouts of joy and victory resound in the tents of the righteous. My head shall be lifted up above my enemies. Shouts of joy and victory resound in the tents of the righteous. My head shall be lifted up when my Lord Yeshua comes. Open to me the gates of righteousness, that I may enter through them. Open to me the gates of righteousness, and I will give thanks to Adonai. Shouts of joy and victory resound in the tents of the righteous. My head shall be lifted up above my enemies. Shouts of joy and victory resound in the tents of the righteous. My head shall be lifted up open up you ancient doors, fling wide you gates, and let the King of glory come in and take his place. We want to see you lifted high above all things, and crowned as King, King of glory. For you are good, and we will sing and shout your praise, King of glory.
You may be seated. Let's do it this way. No, we probably need to do it this way, don't we? Don't mind me as I get myself figured out here. In our tradition, or in Jewish tradition as well, it's traditional, like I said a few minutes ago, to read the Megillah. The Megillah is the book of Esther. And thank you, Eric. This idea that we do the same thing every year, right? These traditions over and over and over again. And yet they come to define us. They come to describe us. They come to give us a sense of who we are, purpose and meaning, and so on. So what we do is we read them out of this book. There are 17 sections of the book of Esther. So each person can come up and read, and after you finish reading your page, then you just turn the page in preparation for the next person. So you've prepared it for the next person. The print is somewhat big, so you can read it. It's not too hard to read, so that's helpful. And when we run out of volunteers, then I call on you. But we never run out of volunteers because the kids get a chance to read as well. This microphone is here. If you can try to speak into the microphone a little bit. I know speaking into a microphone is foreign to many of you. All right, so a couple of rules, decorum and courtesy. This is a party. It's unruly. It's a little out of control. It's a little rambunctious, and that's okay. The story of Esther is a rather unruly story. What the kids are handing out right now is noisemakers. The noisemakers are there to drown out the name of, ready? Haman. Ooh. So, if you keep your noisemaker quiet until you hear the name Haman, then it's effective. So you don't actually do your noisemaker until you hear the name Haman. All right, I think we've practiced that part good enough. When we say the name Esther in the text, yay! When we hear the name Mordecai in the text, yay! All righty, I think that covers the ground rules. So, like I said, one page per reader, and just make sure that you turn the page in preparation for the next reader. All right, who wants to read first? All right, come on, Machi.
The banquets of the king. These events took place in the time of Ahasuerus, the Ahasuerus who ruled over 127 provinces from India to Ethiopia. It was in those days when King Ahasuerus sat on his royal throne in Shushan, the capital, in the 3rd year of his reign, that he gave a banquet for all his officials and courtiers. The army of Persia and Media, the nobles and the provincial officials were in attendance. He displayed the dazzling wealth of his kingdom and his great splendor for a long time, 180 days. At the end of that time, the king gave a 7-day banquet in the courtyard of Shushan, the capital, of the royal palace garden for all the people, both great and small, there in Shushan, the capital. There were white cotton curtains and blue hangings fastened to the silver rods, with cords of fine linen and purple. The columns were marble. The couches for reclining at table were of gold and silver on a mosaic flooring of malachite, marble, mother of pearl, and onyx. Drinks were served in gold goblets, which, with each goblet different from the others, there was royal wine in abundance, as befits royal bounty. The drinking was not according to any fixed rule, for the king had ordered the stewards to serve each man what he wanted. Also Vashti the queen gave a banquet for the women in the royal house belonging to King Ahasuerus. Queen Vashti's refusal. On the 7th day, when the king was in high spirits from the wine, he ordered Mehuman, Bista, Harvona, Bigta, Avagta, Sitar, and Kargas, the 7 officers who attended him, to bring Queen Vashti before the king with the royal crown, in order to show the people and the officials her beauty. For she was indeed a good-looking woman. But Queen Vashti refused to come at the order of the king, which he had sent through his officers. This enraged the king. His anger blazed inside of him.
Queen Vashti is banished from the king's presence. As was the king's custom, he consulted sages well versed in matters of law and justice. With him were Karshena, Shatar, Adamata, Tarshish, Merez, Marsna, and Memukana. The 7 vice regents of Persia and Media, who were part of the king's inner circle and were the most important officials in the kingdom. The king asked the sages, according to the law, what should we do with Queen Vashti, since she didn't obey the orders of King Ahasuerus, conveyed by the officers? Memucahan presented the king and vice-regents this answer. Vashti, the queen, has wronged not only the king, but all the officials and all the people in the province of King Ahasuerus. Because this act of the queen's will become known to all the women, who will then start showing disrespect towards their own husbands. And they will say, King Ahasuerus ordered the queen to be brought before him, but she wouldn't come. Moreover, the noble ladies of Persia and Media, who hear of the queen's conduct, will mention it to all the king's officials, which will bring about no end of disrespect and discord. If it pleases his majesty, let him issue a royal decree, and let it be written as one of the laws of the Persians and Medes, which are irrevocable, that Vashti is never again to be admitted into the presence of King Ahasuerus, and that the king give her royal position to someone better than she. When the edict made by the king is proclaimed throughout the length and breadth of the kingdom, then all wives will honor their husbands, whether great or small. This advice pleased the king and the officials. So the king did what Memucan had suggested. He sent letters to all his royal province, to each province in its own script, and to each people in their own language, that every man should be master in his own house and speak the language of his own people. Wayne? She did. Yeah. Read to where? Okay.
Queen Vashti's successor is sought. A while later, when King Ahasuerus' anger has subsided, he remembered Vashti, what she had done and what had been decreed against her. The king's servants attending him said, a search should be made for young, good-looking virgins. The king should appoint officials in all the provinces of the kingdom to gather all the young, good-looking virgins to the house for the harem, and Shushan, the capital. They should be put under the care of Haggai, the king's officer in charge of the women, and he should give them the cosmetics they require. Then the girl who seems best to the king should become queen instead of Vashti. This proposal pleased the king, so he acted accordingly. There was in Shushan, the capital, a man who was a Jew, whose name was Mordecai, the son of the son of Shema, the son of Kish, a Benjaminian. He had been exiled from Jerusalem with the captives, exiled with Eukananha, the king of Judah, whom Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babel, had carried off. He had raised Hadassah, I think. That is Esther, his uncle's daughter, because she had neither father nor mother. The girl was shapely and good-looking. After her father's and mother's death, Mordecai had adopted her as his own daughter. Esther finds favor. When the king's order and decree were proclaimed, and many girls assembled in Shushan, the capital, under the care of Haggai, Esther too was taken into the king's house and put under the care of Haggai, who was in charge of the women. The girl pleased him and won his favor, so that he lost no time in giving her cosmetics, her portions of special food, and 7 girls from the king's palace to attend her. He also promoted her and the girls attending her to the best place in Harmez headquarters. Oh. Esther did not disclose her people or family ties, because Mordecai had instructed her not to tell anyone. Every day Mordecai would walk around in the front of the courtyards of the harem's house in order to know how Esther was doing and what was happening to her.
Each girl had her turn to appear before King Ahasuerus after she had undergone the full 12-month preparation period prescribed for the women, consisting of a 6-month treatment with oil of myrrh and 6 months with perfumes and other cosmetics for women. Then, when the girl went to see the king, whatever she wanted would be given to her as she went from the harem's house to the king's palace. She would go in the evening, and on the following day she would return to another part of the harem's house and be under the care of Shaashgaz, the king's officer in charge of the concubines. She would not go to the king again unless he was especially pleased with her and had her summoned by name. When the turn came for Esther, the daughter of Abihail, who Mordecai had adopted as his own daughter, to appear before the king. She didn't ask for anything other than what Haggai, the king's officer in charge of the harem, advised. Yet Esther was admired by all who saw her. She was brought to King Ahasuerus in his royal palace in the 10th month, Tevet, during the 7th month of his reign. The king liked Esther more than any of his wives. None of the other virgins obtained such favor and approval from him. So he put the royal crown on her head and made her queen in place of Vashti. The king then gave a great banquet in Esther's honor for all his officers and servants, decreed a holiday for the provinces, and distributed gifts worthy of royal bounty.
When the short kids, sorry. When the girls would gather on other occasions, Mordecai back up. Would sit at the king's gate. Esther had not yet revelated her family, ties, or her people, as Mordecai had ordered her. For Esther continued to obey what Mordecai had told to do, as she had when he was rising her own one of those occasions. When Mordecai was sitting at the king's gate, two of the king's officers, Bigthana and Teresh, from the group in charge, whatever, of the private entryways, became angry and conspired to assassinate the king Ahasuerus. But Mordecai learned about it and told Esther the queen. Esther reported to the king, greeting Mordecai. The matter was investigated, found to be true, and both were hanged on a stake. All this was recorded in the daily journalia, whatever, that was kept with the king. Sometime later, the king Ahasuerus began to single out Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite of advancement. Eventually, he gave him peace precedence over all his fellow officers. All the king's servants at the king's gate would kneel and bow down before Haman. Because the king had so ordered, but Mordecai would neither kneel or bow to him. The king's servants at the king's gate asked Mordecai, "Why don't you obey the king's order?" But after they had confronted him a number of times without his paying attention to them, they told Haman, in order to find out whether Mordecai's explanation that he was a Jew would suffice to justify his behavior. Haman was furious when he saw that Mordecai was not kneeling and bowing down to him. However, on learning what people
belonged to it seemed to him a waste to lay hands on Mordecai alone. Rather, he decided to destroy all of Mordecai's people, the Jews throughout the whole of Ahasuerus' kingdom.
In the first month of Nisan, in the 12th year of Ahasuerus, they began throwing pur, that is, the cast lots, before Haman every day. Every day and every month until the 12th month, which is the month of Adar. Then Haman said to Ahasuerus, "There is a particular people scattered in the dispersed among the peoples of the provinces of your kingdom. Their laws are different from those who are other people. Moreover, they don't observe the king's laws, and it doesn't benefit the king to tolerate them. If it does please the king, have a decree written for their destruction, and I will hand over 330 tons of silver to the officials in the charge of the king's affairs to deposit in the royal treasury." The king took his signet ring from his hand and gave it to Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, an enemy of the Jews. The king said to Haman, "The money is given to you, and the people too. Do as seems good to you." The king's secretaries were summoned to the 13th day of the first month. They wrote down all Haman's orders to the king's army. To the king's army commanders and governors in all the provinces, and to the officials of every people, to each province in its own script, and to each people in their own language. Everything was written in the name of the king, Ahasuerus, and sealed with the king's signet ring. Letters were sent by courier in all of the royal provinces to destroy, kill, and exterminate all Jews from young to old, including small children and women, on the specific day, the 13th of the 12th month, the month of Adar, and to seize their goods as plunder. A copy of the document, to be issued as a decree in every province, was to be publicly proclaimed all the peoples, so that they would be ready for that day. The king's order, the runners went out quickly, and the decree was issued in Shushan, the capital. Then the king of Haman sat down for a drink together, but the city of Shushan was thrown into confusion.
When Mordecai learned everything that had been done, he tore his clothes, put on sackcloth and ashes, and went out through the city, lamenting and crying bitterly. He stopped before entering the king's gate, since no one was allowed to go inside the king's gate wearing sackcloth. In every province reached by the king's order and decree, there was great mourning among the Jews, with fasting, weeping, and wailing, as many lay down on sackcloth and ashes. When the girls and officials attending Esther came and informed her of this, the queen became deeply distressed. She sent clothes for Mordecai to wear instead of his sackcloth, but he wouldn't accept them. So Esther summoned Hatak, one of the king's officials attending her, and instructed him to go to Mordecai and find out what this was all about and why. Hatak went out to Mordecai in the open space in front of the king's gate, and Mordecai told him everything that had happened to him and exactly how much silver Haman had promised to put in the royal treasury for the destruction of the Jews. He also gave him a copy of the decree for their destruction issued in Shushan, so that he could show it to Esther, explain it to her, and then instruct her to approach the king, intercede with him, and implore his favor on behalf of her people. Hatak returned and told Esther what Mordecai had said. Then Esther spoke to Hatak and gave him this message for Mordecai. All the king's officials, as well as the people in the royal provinces, know that if anyone, man or woman, approaches the king in the inner courtyard without being summoned, there is just one law. He must be put to death, unless the king holds out the gold scepter for him to remain alive. And I haven't been summoned to the king for the past 30 days.
Upon being told what Esther had said, Mordecai asked them to give Esther this answer. Don't suppose that merely because you happen to be in the royal palace, you will escape any more than the other Jews. For if you fail to speak up now, relief and deliverance will come to the Jews from a different direction. But you and your father's family will perish. Who knows whether you didn't come into your royal position precisely for such a time as this? Esther had them return this answer to Mordecai. Go assemble all the Jews to be found in Shushan, and have them fast for me, neither eating nor drinking for 3 days, night and day. Also, I and the girls attending me will fast the same way. Then I will go into the king, which is against the law, and if I perish, I perish. Then Mordecai went his way and did everything Esther had ordered him to do. On the third day, Esther put on her royal robes and stood in the inner courtyard of the king's palace, opposite the king's hall. The king was sitting on his royal throne in the king's hall, across from the entrance of the hall. When the king saw Esther, the queen, standing in the courtyard, my eyes are playing tricks on me. She won his favor, so the king extended the golden scepter in his hand towards Esther. Esther approached and touched the tip of the scepter. What is it you want, Esther, Queen Esther? The king asked her. Whatever you request, up to half of the kingdom, it will be given to you. If it is all right with the king, answered Esther. Let the king and Haman come today to the banquet I have prepared for him. The king said, bring Haman quickly, so that what Esther has asked for can be done. So the king and came to the banquet Esther had prepared.
Haman and Mordecai. At the banquet of wine, the king again said to Esther, "Whatever your request, you will be granted it. Whatever you want, up to half the kingdom, it will be done." Then Esther answered, "My request, what I want, is this. If I have won the king's favor, if it pleases the king to grant my request and do what I want, let the king and Haman come to the banquet which I will prepare for them, and tomorrow I will do as the king has said." That day Haman went out happy and in good spirits. But when Haman saw Mordecai at the king's gate, that he neither rose nor moved for him, Haman was infuriated with Mordecai. Nevertheless, Haman, that sounded like a hurrah, restrained himself and went home, where he summoned and brought his friends and Zeresh, his wife. Haman boasted to them about his vast wealth, his many sons, and everything connected with how the king had promoted him and given him precedence over the other officials and servants of the king. Indeed, Haman added, Esther, the queen, let nobody into the banquet with the king that she had prepared except myself. And tomorrow, too, I am invited by her together with the king. Yet none of this does me any good at all, as long as I keep seeing Mordecai, the Jew, remaining seated at the king's gate. At this, Zeresh, his wife, and all his friends said to him, have a gallows 75 feet high constructed, and in the morning speak to the king about having Mordecai hanged on it. Then go in and enjoy yourself with the king at the banquet. Haman liked the idea, so he made a gallows.
I got to put it a little higher for me. That night, the king couldn't sleep, so he ordered the records of the daily journal brought, and they were read to the king. It was found written that Mordecai had told about Bigtana and Teresh, two of the king's officers from the group in charge of the private entryways, who had conspired to assassinate King Ahasuerus. The king asked, what honor or distinction was conferred on Mordecai for this? The king's servants answered, nothing was done for him. The king then asked, who's that in the courtyard? For Haman had come into the outer courtyard of the king's palace to speak to the king about hanging Mordecai on the gallows he had prepared for him. The king's servants told him, it's Haman standing there in the courtyard. The king said, have him come in. So Haman came in. The king said to him, what should be done for a man that the king wants to honor? Haman thought to himself, who would the king want to honor more than me? So Haman answered the king, for a man the king wants to honor, have royal robes brought, which the king himself wears, and the horse the king himself rides, with a royal crown on his head. The robes and the horse should be handed over to one of the king's most respected officials, and they should be put the robes on the man the king wants to honor, and lead him on horseback through the streets of the city, proclaiming ahead of him, This is what is done for a man whom the king wants to honor. The king said to Haman, hurry and take the robes and the horse, as you said, and do this for Mordecai, the Jew, who sits at the king's gate. Don't leave out anything you mentioned. So Haman took the robes and the horse, dressed Mordecai, and led him riding through the streets of the city as he proclaimed ahead of him, this is what is done for a man whom the king wants to honor. Then Mordecai returned to the king's gate, but Haman rushed home with his head covered in mourning.
After Haman had told Zeresh his wife and all his friends everything that had happened to him, his advisors and his wife Zeresh said to him, if Mordecai, before whom you have begun to fall, is a Jew, you will not get the better of him. On the contrary, your downfall before him is certain. While they were still talking with him, the king's officials came, hurrying to bring Haman to the banquet Esther had prepared. So the king and Haman went to Queen Esther's banquet, and the king again said to Esther at the wine banquet, whatever your request, Queen Esther, you will be granted it. Whatever you want, up to half the kingdom, it will be done. Esther the queen answered, if I have won your favor, king, and if it pleases the king, then what I ask be given me is my own life and the lives of my people. For we have been sold, I and my people, to be destroyed, killed, exterminated. If we had only been sold as men and women slaves, I would have remained quiet. Since then, our trouble would not have been worth the damage it would have caused the king to alter the situation. King Ahasuerus asked Esther the queen, who is he? Where is the man who dared to do such a thing? Esther said, a ruthless enemy. It's this wicked Haman.
Where are we? Haman stood aghast? Yes. Okay. I do voices, okay? Come on. Haman stood aghast, terrified before the king and queen, in a rage. The king got up from the wine banquet and went out to the palace garden. But Haman, that putz, he remained pleading with Esther the queen to spare his life. For he could see that the king had decided to do him in. Oy, Haman had just fallen on the couch. He plotzed where Esther was. When the king returned from the palace garden to the wine banquet, he shouted, is he even going to rape the queen here in the palace before my eyes? Oy. The moment these words left the king's mouth, they covered Haman's face. Havanagila, what's his name? Harvona. See, what do I know? One of the king's attendants said, look, the gallows 75 feet high that Haman made for Mordecai, there we go, who spoke only good for the king, is standing at Haman's house. The king said, hang him on it. So they hanged Haman on the gallows he had prepared for Mordecai. Then the king's anger subsided. He calmed down. He wasn't schwitzing so much. That same day, King Ashurbanipal gave the house of Haman, the enemy of the Jews, to Esther the queen. Also, Mordecai appeared before the king, for Esther had revealed his relationship to her. The king removed his signet ring, which he had taken back from Haman, the putz, and gave it to Mordecai. Then Esther put Mordecai in charge of Haman's house. Again, Esther spoke to the king. She fell at his feet and begged him, pleaded with tears to put an end to the mischief Haman, the Agagite, had caused by the scheme he had worked out against the Jews. The king extended the gold scepter toward Esther. So Esther got up and stood in front of the king. She said, "If it pleases the king, if I have won his favor," she's the Jew from London, "if I have won his favor, if the matter seem right to the king, and if I have his approval, then let an order be written," she's the queen now, "be written rescinding the letters devised by Haman, the son of Hamdata, the Agagite, which he wrote to destroy the Jews in all the royal provinces. For how can I bear to see the disaster that will overcome my people? How can I endure seeing the extermination of my kinsmen?"
So the Jews allowed to defend themselves. So King Ahasuerus said to Esther, the queen, and Mordecai, the Jew, "Listen, I gave Esther the house of Haman, and they hanged him on the gallows because he threatened the lives of the Jews. You should issue a decree in the king's name for whatever you want concerning the Jews, and seal it with the king's signet ring, because a decree written in the king's name and sealed with the king's ring cannot be rescinded by anyone." The king's secretaries were summoned at that time on the 23rd day of the third month, the month of Sivan, and a decree was written according to everything Mordecai ordered concerning the Jews, to the army commanders, governors, and officials of the provinces, from India to Ethiopia, 127 provinces, to each province in its script, and to each people in their language, also to the Jews in their script and language. They wrote in the name of King Ahasuerus and sealed it with the king's signet ring. They sent the letters by couriers on horseback, riding fast horses used in the king's service and bred from the royal stock. The letters said that the king had granted the Jews in every city the right to assemble and defend their lives by destroying, killing, and exterminating any forces of any people or province that would attack them, their little ones or their women, or would try to seize their goods as plunder on the designated day in any of the provinces of King Ahasuerus, namely the 13th day of the 12th month, the month of Adar.
Did I already turn it? The time approached for the king's order and decree to be carried out, the day when the enemies of the Jews hoped to overpower them. But as it turned out, the opposite took place. The Jews overpowered those who hated them. Thus, on the 13th day of the 12th month, the month of Adar, the Jews assembled in their cities throughout all the provinces of King Ahasuerus to attack anyone who tried to do them harm. And no one was able to withstand them, because all the peoples were afraid of them. All the officials of the provinces, the army commanders, the governors, and those occupied with the king's affairs helped the Jews, because they were afraid of Mordecai. For Mordecai had become a powerful person in the king's palace, and his fame had spread through all the provinces. Mordecai continued to grow increasingly powerful. The Jews put all their enemies to the sword. There was great slaughter and destruction, as they did whatever they wanted to those who hated them. In Shushan the capital, the Jews slaughtered 500 men. They put to death the 10 sons of Haman. Boo! The son of Hamadata, the enemy of the Jews. Parshandata, Dalphon, Aspata, Porata, Adalia, Aridata, Pamashta, Arisai, Aridai, and Vaizata. But they did not touch the spoil. The same day, after the king had been told the number of those killed in Shushan the capital, he said to Esther, "If the Jews have slaughtered 500 men in Shushan the capital, and the 10 sons of Haman, what have they done in the rest of the royal provinces? Now, whatever your request, you will be granted it. Whatever more you want, it will be done." Esther replied, "If it pleases the king, let all the Jews in Shushan act again tomorrow in accordance with today's decree. Also, have Haman's 10 sons hanged on the gallows." The king ordered these things done. A decree was issued in Shushan, and they hanged Haman's 10 sons. So the Jews in Shushan assembled also on the 14th day of the month of Adar and killed 300 men in Shushan, but they did not touch the spoil. The other Jews, those in the royal provinces, had assembled, defended their lives, and won rest from their enemies, killing 75,000 of those who hated them, but without touching the spoil. On the 13th day of the month of Adar, so on the 14th day of Adar, they rested and made it a holiday for celebrating and rejoicing. However, the Jews of Shushan assembled on both the 13th and 14th days of Adar. So it was on the 15th that they rested and made it a holiday for celebrating and rejoicing. And this is why the Jews of all the villages, those who live in unwalled towns, make the 14th day of the month of Adar a day for celebrating and rejoicing, a holiday and a time for sending each other portions of food.
You can do, go ahead. You want to do one more? Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Purim is made a holiday. Mordecai recorded these events and sent letters to all the Jews in all the provinces of King Ahasuerus, both near and far, instructing them to observe the 14th day of the month of Adar and the 15th day every year to commemorate the days on which the Jews obtained rest from their enemies, and the mouth which for them was turned from sorrow into gladness, and from mourning until a holiday. They were to make them so of celebrating and rejoicing, sending portions of food to each other and giving gifts to the poor. So the Jews took it upon themselves to continue what they had already begun to do. And as Mordecai had written them to them. Because Haman, the son of Hamdata, the Agagi, the enemy of the Jews, had plotted against the Jews to destroy them, and had thrown that is, cast lots, to crush and destroy them. But when Esther came before the king, he ordered by letters that Haman's wicked scheme, which he had plotted against the Jews, should recoil on his own head, and that he and his sons should be hanged on the gallows. This is why these days have been called Purim, after the word pur. Thus, because of everything written in this letter, and what they had been concerning this matter, and what had come upon them, the Jews resolved and took upon themselves, their descendants, and all who might join them, that without fail they would observe these 2 days in accordance with what was written in this letter, and at the appointed time every year, and these days would be remembered and observed throughout every generation, every family, every province, every city, and that these days of Purim would never cease among the Jews, or their memory be lost by their descendants.
All right, I'm not sure what that was, hillbilly Yiddish or something. I'll go ahead and finish up. Then Esther the queen, yay! The daughter of Avichail and Mordecai, the Jew, gave full written authority to confirm a second letter about Purim. He sent copies of it to all the Jews, to the 127 provinces of the kingdom of Ahasuerus, ensuring their peace and security and requiring the observance of these days as Purim at their designated times. As Mordecai the Jew and Esther the queen, yay, had enjoined them, and as they had established for themselves and their descendants concerning the matter of fasting and lamenting, at Esther's order, these matters of Purim were confirmed and put in writing in the book. King Ahasuerus laid tribute on the land, the coasts and the islands. All the acts of his power and his might, along with a full account of the high honor to which the king advanced Mordecai, are written in the annals of the kings of Media and Persia. For Mordecai the Jew was second only to King Ahasuerus. He was a great man among the Jews, popular with all of his many countrymen. He sought the good of his people and interceded for the welfare of all their descendants. If you're in the spiel, you can now go to the fellowship hall with Rebitz and Casey. So that's nearly all the children and some of the teens and some of the others as well. Got some notes. Does this stay here, Anthony? All right, I'll just leave it there. How's that? Okay, we will have our spiel momentarily. The kids are going to go and kind of get ready for that and get geared up. In the meantime, I'll share a few thoughts and words and comments with you, and then we'll have our spiel, and then we'll conclude with that. What we did in our family is we always told the story of Hanukkah. During Hanukkah, we would tell the story, and each child for each night would get a chance to tell the story. So this is our chance to tell the story of Purim. What's the essence of the story? The essence of the story is quite simple. They tried to kill us. God delivered us. Let's have a party. It's the template of many of our holidays. But more than that, consider when Adonai delivered the people out of Egypt, right? The people were mostly bystanders. What did the people actually have to do? What did they actually do to be delivered from Egypt? They sacrificed a lamb. They painted the lamb on the doorposts of their house. They went in. They had a meal. They ate all the food. Had to eat all the food. Finish your dinner, and wait around till morning. And that was essentially it. And then they left Egypt. They were driven out of Egypt. The 10 plagues was the work of Adonai. But that's opposite of this narrative. It's completely opposite. What did Adonai do miraculously in the story of Esther? The answer is nothing. We don't have any evidence of Adonai doing anything miraculous. Maybe he did. Maybe he gave them grace to kill 75,000 of the Agagites and of the descendants of Haman and of the Persians that were going to kill him. Maybe he gave them grace and empowered them to do that, but we have nothing indicated in the text that Adonai intervened supernaturally. We had to do a lot of the work. We had to do the heavy lifting. We had to work for ourselves. We had to defend ourselves. Rabbi Joey Rosenfield has a quote that he borrows from Dr. Stephen Heath, and he uses it when he interprets the text. And he does this as he goes through different texts. And he asks the question, what's at stake? What's at stake in this passage in order to try to get the meaning of the passage? Or try to get the intention. What's the weight of this passage? What's at stake? What's at stake here? They're going to be annihilated. They're going to be wiped out. What's at stake is existential. This is the reality. And as we see this, we live in the West, right? We live in America. So it's all these varying degrees. If I get this job, my life's going to be a little better. If this doesn't go right for me, life's going to be a little bit worse. Every now and then somebody comes along with a calamity, whether they're going to lose their job and their entire industry is being phased out, or they have a health crisis, or something happens in their family, major calamity, relationship, betrayal, these kinds of things, right? Occasionally that does happen. But most of us are dealing not with an existential threat. Let's be honest. And yet, what's at stake in our lives? The enemy of your souls, the Haman, boo, right? Of your existence is not silent, right? Your enemy is not idle. Don't think you get a pass. Don't think that deliverance won't come to the kingdom of God through someone else because you have been sidelined or you've been marginalized or you've been sabotaged in your effectiveness. Right? The enemy is not idle. He's going to be active and engaged in attacking you. This is the reality. There is an existentiality to our daily life. This is what Adonai has given us. An understanding, an insight on this. One of the ways you could look at this narrative of Esther is with the word concealed. Adonai is not absent because Adonai is never absent, right? Adonai is never entirely silent. He's at work in creation. His voice is heard through creation. The word that the sages use to describe this effect in Esther is concealed. It's as if he's concealed. He's hidden. In what ways is Adonai himself concealed? The characters only obliquely refer to Adonai. Miraculous intervention is concealed. We think of hiddenness as a net effect, a byproduct, an unfortunate result. In other words, I go through my life and unfortunately it feels that Adonai is concealed from me. I don't see his hand of providence. I don't see his miraculous intervention. And we think, well, that's not the best. I want to see his hand. I want to see his miracles. But is it possible that concealment is actually a goal? Is it possible that Adonai concealing himself is a purpose? Is it possible that he uses concealing himself or hiding himself to effect? Let's look at it. Jeremiah chapter 29. Jeremiah 29, if you read the text in light of Esther, of the book of Esther, it's remarkable. It's almost a commentary on the book of Esther. Look at this. Following is the text of the letter Yirmiyahu wrote from Yerushalayim to the leaders remaining in exile. And all the people Nebuchadnezzar had carried off captive from Yerushalayim to Babel. Here's what Adonai Tzvaot, the God of Israel, says to all those in exile whom I have caused to be carried off captives from Yerushalayim to Babel. And this is what he says in verse 5. In other words, what was happening is they were asking the question, what's going to happen to us? We've been carried off to Babylon. What's going to happen to us? We're in Babylon. We're in Bavel. What's going to happen to us? And some of the prophets are saying, don't worry. We're going back to Jerusalem in just a couple months. We'll be back in a month. We'll be back in a year. Don't worry. Don't get excited. It's going to be okay. And Adonai spoke through Jeremiah, to say this. And look what he says. Here's what Adonai, the God of Israel, verse 4 says. Verse 5, build yourselves houses and live in them. Plant gardens, see what they produce. Choose women to marry, have sons and daughters. Choose wives for your sons and give your daughters in marriage to men so they can have sons and daughters. Increase your numbers there. Don't decrease. What happens after the narrative of Esther? Right? We've risen up and we've defeated our enemies. What happens? Are we going home now? Well, according to history, we know we don't go home. We don't go home for quite some time. Seek the welfare of the city to which I have caused you to go in exile, and pray to Adonai on its behalf, for your welfare is bound up in their welfare, in its welfare. For this is what Adonai, the God of Israel, says, don't let your prophets who are living among you and your diviners deceive you. Don't pay attention to the dreams you urge them to dream. In other words, I really want you to have a prophecy that says, I'm going back to Jerusalem in a couple months. Is it possible that there could be a dream? And the prophet comes the next day and says, I had that dream. That very dream you wanted me to have. That's what the text is saying here, right? And then it says this in verse 10, and this is very exciting to me. For here is what Adonai says. After Babylon, 70 years are over, I will remember you and fulfill my good promise to you by bringing you back to this place. Speaking of Jerusalem, remember, this will be 70 years. In other words, you're going to go home. But for the 70 years, stay in the land and build. And then he says this, verse 11. I know what plans I have in mind for you, says Adonai. Plans for well-being, not for bad things, so that you can have a hope and a future. When you call to me and pray to me, I will listen to you. What's the context? The context is Adonai is silent. Adonai is not speaking. Adonai is distant. He's absent. He's silent. He's hidden. I pray to the sky and my prayers bounce off the brass skies and they come back to me echoed. And I think there cannot be a God in the universe that hears me. And what does Adonai say? Stay in the land. Build houses. Seek the welfare, for your welfare is bound up in their welfare. And yet in 70 years, I will bring you back to this place. And then it says this, verse 13, and you'll see why I get very excited. When you seek me, you will find me, provided you seek for me wholeheartedly. And I've talked about this before. Little kids, little toddlers. What's one of the first games they learn? Peekaboo. Every child loves peekaboo. What is the essence of peekaboo? Where did Daddy go? There he is. Where's Daddy? There he is. It's hidden and revealed. Hidden and revealed. What's the next game that children love to play? Hide and seek. What is hide and seek? It's hidden and revealed. Hidden and revealed. Now it's your turn to hide, Daddy. Now come find me. Hiding and revealed. Hiding and revealed. What's the next game? Tag. Very good. Tag. What is tag? You're it and you run away and they chase you. Now I'm it and I chase you. Look what it says. When you seek me, you will find me, provided you seek for me with your whole heart. And I will let you find me, says Adonai. In the context of his hiddenness, in the context of his silence, in the context of brass skies, is it possible that this is for cause? And what is the cause? It creates an urgency in us. It drives us to find him. It drives us to draw near to him. And then it says this, I will let you find me, says Adonai, then I will reverse your exile, and I will gather you from the nations and the places where I have driven you and bring you back to the places from which I exiled you. You see, in Elohim, it is concealment. What is the concealment? What is the big moment of concealment in the garden in Genesis? What's the big moment of concealment? Adam, where are you? Where are you? Because you were hiding, but not in a good way. You were hiding in your shame. And when we came out of the brush, we were covered with leaves because we were hiding in our shame. The opposite is the case with Adonai. Adonai is concealed, but he says, I will let you find me. Then after we have pursued him, we will find him, and then he will reverse the exile. From Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 29. However, from there you will seek Adonai your God. You will find him if you search after him with your whole heart and your whole being. In your distress, when all these things have come upon you, in the Acharit Hayamim, that's the last days, you'll return to Adonai your God and listen to what he says. Indeed, inquire about the past before you were born, since the day God created human beings on this earth. What is it referring to? All the way back to the creation at Genesis. From one end of heaven to the other, has there ever been anything as wonderful as this? Has anyone heard anything like it? Did any other people ever hear the voice of God speaking out of a fire as you have heard and stay alive? Or has God ever tried to go and take for himself a nation from the very bowels of another nation by means of ordeals, signs, wonders, war, a mighty hand, and outstretched arm? What is he referring to? He's referring to the terror of slavery in Egypt when they were concealed from the blessings of God because they were in Egypt. They were hidden. They were concealed. They were removed from the blessings that Adonai had for them. And yet Adonai spoke of this ordeal, speaking of their concealment spiritually, to draw them out and bring them into the land and into his favor. In Jewish tradition, there are 3 blocks of 2,000 years and then a block of 1,000 years. The first period of 2,000 years is called the period of Tohu, chaos and void, Tohu vavohu, the chaos of the earth. And it goes up to the time of Abraham. The next 2,000 years is called the period of Torah, of law, of organization, of being introduced in revelation of God. And then finally, the next 2,000 years is referred to in Jewish tradition as the period of the Mashiach, because they are preparing for the Mashiach to come. Now, we in Messianic Judaism understand, yes, the Mashiach has come, and he's coming again. So we're all going to see him here real soon. But consider that. In the text, when it says, you will find me when you seek for me with your whole heart, what if that's what's written to Israel today? What if those words prophetically have the near audience, the immediate audience, but like all prophecy, has a remote or ultimate audience? What if the ultimate audience of that line, you will find me when you seek for me, is written to the Jews of today? You will find me when you seek for me with your whole heart. In other words, speaking of Yeshua, you will find him when you seek for him. What if the coming of Mashiach is contingent upon Israel acknowledging him, Yeshua, as Mashiach? In other words, you will not see me until you say, Baruch haba b'shem Adonai. What if Adonai is waiting for Yeshua to be revealed in their hearts so that they begin to seek after him and draw themselves near to him? And this is what Yeshua said. Listen to his words, Matthew chapter 23, Yerushalayim, Yerushalayim, you kill the prophets, you stone those who are sent to you. How often I wanted to gather your children, just as a hen gathers her chickens under her wings, but you refused. What does it mean to gather chickens, to gather chicks under the wings? To protect? What's another word we could use for it? Conceal. They're concealed, right? But you refused. Look, God is abandoning your house to you, leaving it desolate. For I tell you, from now on, you will not see me again. What's the word? Concealed. You will not see me again until you say, blessed is he who comes in the name of Adonai. Do you see this? And here we have this narrative of Esther. Don, could you get Revitz and Casey and the kids? Let them know I'm ready for them. Thank you. And here we have this narrative of Esther. This place where Esther was concealed, where the hand of Adonai was concealed, Mordecai was concealed, and yet for cause, for purpose. And we have this phrase, what if this was here for such a time as this? What if you were here for such a purpose as this? What is that purpose? That purpose is to reveal Adonai, to reveal the hand of God, to reveal the truth of God. How was the truth of God revealed? It was revealed in his people. His people were a revelation of his truth. And so when Mordecai and Esther begin to move through this political maelstrom, this political stew pot of difficulty, and Adonai blesses them, and they're able to find the legal basis in which they can defend themselves. They're able to come out of this hiddenness and gain a victory. But it's a temporary victory, isn't it? Because what is the ultimate victory? The ultimate victory is salvation. And what do we have here on the earth today? Many of us are praying and scanning our phones constantly for news of Israel. In American service members, I think the number is 6 that have perished. The IDF has lost no soldiers at all. However, Israel has, I believe, 9 casualties in this action. That's a phenomenal number on both sides when you think about it. But it's a temporary victory. Why is it a temporary victory? Because the gospel of Yeshua is the goal of this age. The message of Yeshua to preach to the Jews so that they see their Mashiach. They look upon him who was pierced for their transgressions. They look upon him and they are pierced because they see him and they know him. That's what we're waiting for. So whatever victory that Esther had here and Mordecai, whatever victory we're going to see in the coming days and weeks vis-a-vis Iran, whatever victory on behalf of the Persians, what really needs to happen? The gospel needs to go from Persia back to Jerusalem. Isn't that what happened 2,000 years ago? The Magi from the east, magicians, astrologers, astronomers from the east. What is the east? Likely Persia. Leftovers, remnants from Daniel and his heritage and his legacy. Bringing that to Jerusalem with the message of what? What was the message they came with? What was it they told Herod? We are here to worship the King of the Jews. Where is the one born King of the Jews? For we want to worship him. This is the gospel that's going back to Israel. This is the gospel that's going back to Jerusalem. We continue to pray that Adonai will no longer be concealed from the eyes of Israel, but that the veil will be lifted and they will see their king, they will see their Mashiach. And then we will see the revival on the earth, even in our days. Chag Sameach, everybody. On that note, I will turn it over to Rebitz and Casey and our kids, and they will entertain us with the Purim spiel. Greg, do you want to open the door and we can ask them to come in? Oh, never mind.
The king has banished the former queen. The king now wants a new queen. All young women will have a chance to compete at being queen of all Persia if they come to the castle for a beauty contest. The winner will be queen.
Go, God may work through you to do great things if you are clean, but don't tell anyone that you are a Jew.
Yes, Mordecai. Bring in all the girls. You look familiar.
Hi. Hi.
Come on, it's time to.
What, are you taking me to dinner?
Next. I choose you.
Thank you.
Let's assassinate the king,
Why?
so we can be kings.
Good idea.
See who it is.
The king is in danger.
Tonight, hide well in the king's bedroom. Bigthana and Teresh are going to attempt to kill the king. So be ready.
Table now. Tables now. Ow! What's wrong with you? Shh. Now, Terrence, be quiet.
Okay.
Send them to jail and write this in the history books.
Yes, sir.
I need that.
Make way for Lord Haman.
You dog, why don't you bow? I only bow to God. What kind of man is this?
A Jew. A Jew. No.
Oh, great king, there are certain men in your kingdom who are evil. If I have your permission, I will make a decree that they will be killed in the month of Adar.
Okay, here's my ring.
Thank you, O great king.
Don't warn Esther about Haman's evil plot. I don't mean to kvetch, but I knew he was no good when he stole my helmet fashion in the 4th grade. Ooh, drama. I love it. Let's see who it is. Go. I need to speak to Esther. What is it, Mordecai? Haman wants to kill all the Jews. What? Go to the king and tell him that you are a Jew. Maybe he will renounce it. The king can kill me if I go without his permission. Well, I'll get all the Jews to pray for you. Okay, I will go. Just don't worry. Scepter. Whoa, whoa.
You may come in, Esther.
Oh, great king, I have something to tell you. I'd like to invite you and Haman to a feast I have prepared.
Haman, prepare to go with me. We will be there soon.
So now Haman is preparing to go to a second banquet that he thinks the king has invited him to because he's special.
So what is your request?
Oh, my request is that you come to another feast tomorrow.
Great. Haman and I will be there.
Now Haman is preparing to go to a second banquet that he thinks the king has invited him to because he's special. He has no idea what's coming. Ooh, drama. I love it. Bow! No! The queen invited the king and me to a banquet. She thinks that I am as important as the king. Oh, really? What's the matter? Even though I'm second in command, even the queen thinks so. Mordecai still won't bow to me. I have an idea. Maybe have one of our many servants build gallows and ask the king's permission to hang Mordecai. How tall would we have to make the gallows? Well, he is pretty tall. Let's do 75 feet, just in case. Dismiss the cheer! Throw!
I can't sleep. Bring me some of my history. It's pretty dry. It'll help me sleep.
King Ahasuerus led out his army against the Greeks. He decided to make a bridge out of boats across the Hellespont.
Not that. I want some happy history.
Then Magdana and Teresh conspired against the king, but Mordecai saved the king.
What was he awarded with?
Nothing, I guess.
King, I would like to ask you something.
First, I would like you to tell me what I should do for someone who has pleased me.
He probably means me.
No.
The king should give him royal robes, the king's horse, and have someone parade him around town.
Go do that to Mordecai.
What's the matter, Haman? The king made me parade Mordecai around town.
Oh, well, the gallows are coming along nicely. Good.
The other side.
Well, this is great food. But what is your request?
Save my people and me. I am a Jew, and Haman plans to kill all of us.
Is this true?
Well,
Lord Haman, I have good news. The gallows are done.
Gallows?
The ones that were built to Mordecai.
Hang Mordecai, hang Haman instead!
does this thing work?
Probably.
Guards.
Well, Mordecai, I gave you all that Haman had.
Is there anything more we can do to save the Jews?
No, the decree of the Medes and the Persians has been sealed.
And the Jews are delivered from their enemies.
Esther and Mordecai saved the day and saved the Jews. Happy Purim. Let's do
If I could have the children around me, please, in all their finery and costume. I think we can do without the swords, though. Maybe we'll leave the swords alone. Paul, if I could have Paul, Gino, Mark. We're going to say a blessing over our children. There we go. Come on. We're going to say a blessing. You remember this part. In our tradition, we bless our children under the talit. I'm getting some feedback. If you could bring my mic down a little bit. Pretty sure that's me. We bless our children under the talit. Please stretch out your hands as we say a blessing. Yevarecha Adonai yireshmerecha, ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichunecha, yisa Adonai panav elecha ve'asem lecha shalom shalom. The Lord bless you, the Lord keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. The Lord lift up his countenance on you and give you rest, peace, shalom. The Lord make you, yes you, and all the boys in the world like Ephraim and Manasseh. And the Lord make you and all the girls in the world like Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah. The Lord lay down a path of blessing before you. May he make straight paths before you. May those paths lead into his wisdom, into his eternal life, and into his love. May the Lord be the sun on your right hand and the shade on your left. May the Lord guard your coming in and your going out, both now and forevermore. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. Amen, amen, and amen. So concludes our Purim celebration. Thank you all for coming. We do have a tzedakah box. We don't take an offering on these special services, but if you'd like to give, especially with all that's going on in the world, the box is on the table just on the other side of the wall there. It's a brown box. So you're welcome to do that. And we would love for you to stay and join us for a short oneg or a dessert oneg. Thank you all for coming. Hag Sameach. Hag Purim Sameach.